Hey everyone, this is Jimmy, Monster Modelworks, Larkspur Laser Art. How's everybody doing? I'm working on a new kit I'm releasing, an industrial building. It's going to use our poured concrete forms, but I wanted to take the time to explain my painting process, or one of my painting processes, which I've never done in video format. So I'm going to sort of do this live like a clinic and then add parts later. So basically, after I built the kit up, I like to paint the walls once the kit is completely built, then paint. It just works best with our brick and stone kits. So I was assembling the prototype, and this is the brick color I chose, red clay. A lot of times I'll use just basically heritage brick as one of these paints, or red brick. There are a lot of good ones. They didn't have it in the store. I use a basic black for this. I like yellows, but I don't like the bright normal yellows, so this is more of a mustardy type of color. It's also great in making concrete, mixing it with gray to get old concrete look. It's perfect. And then I also use a rust color. Here it's a terracotta color to go from. So what I've done so far on setting this up to get you caught up is I started with a coat of the base coat. Okay, it was that first one I showed you, the red clay. So here it is. You can see it here perfectly here. I painted all the brick surfaces with that color. I then came behind it, and as you can see, I was dabbing or dry brushing a bit of a black to darken all the bricks. So you see, as I zoom out here, you can see how dark that really looks, right? My next step is going to be to start with that rust color and start dabbing on top of the black. So you can see, if I bring it over here, let's get it focused, you can see the blacks and the rust all mixed together. And when you start looking at it being done all through here, these darks over here, they don't seem that they're so dark over here. So don't worry about if things are looking dark, because the next two steps after the paint is going to really wash it down even some more. So I'll show you how I dab this stuff. I'm going to continue with the rust color, and then I'm going to go and do the yellow on this. So normally I work on glass. So I'm going to go and I'm going to grab my rust color, and I'm going to pour a little bit onto my glass top. I got me some water right here as well. We don't want to get that all mixed in with stuff. And I got my better glasses so I can actually see what I'm doing. So what we're going to do is we're also going to use a paper towel here to dab off the paint. So I'm just going to dab into the rust color here, and then I'm going to start dabbing it onto, even brushing it like I would a normal dry brush sort of situation, where you can, take the paint off and you can see you're still getting the highlights. But I want just a tiny bit more. And as I dab that, I'm going to be able to come in here now where it's darker here and just start dabbing in some of that color, dabbing in some more of it. I'm even going to put it on, if you noticed, it's a clean brick versus an old brick. So these segments of windows and freight doors were bricked up at some point. So I'm actually going to paint that with a different highlight as well, but I'm going to highlight it with some rust just to give it some variation in color. Dab as you need, wipe off as you need. If you get something too heavy, like here, I'm going to go, boom, oh, that looks too heavy. Quick wipe with your finger, you're good to go. As long as you get it right at that point in time, there won't be a problem. You can always dab or dry brush more black over it, or more of even your base brick color if you think you've gone too far. So that's no problem at all. We're going to get some on the insides here, get a little too much. Not much on the edges there. And just play with it, you know. This is kind of therapeutic, right? We're just dabbing. Move this back over here a bit. Dabbing these in here. And just making sure I feel I'm getting some decent coloration. Sometimes when it dries, you don't see it. Some of these lighter colors on top. And sometimes it's just real subtle, so it's nice. Like I said, you can always add more. We're going to get to a point where, you know, you just don't want to add any more after we go to the next level with this stuff. So I'm just going to continue, and we'll speed through this on the video. We do have how-tos on our website. On the home page at the top, it says how-tos. It's a link. There's all kinds of stuff in there from other clients that sent me stuff that they did and how they did it, to stuff that we've done and we recommend. So feel free to use those. If there's something that I haven't addressed that you'd like to see, let me know, Facebook message or just something, and I'd be happy to consider doing something. And you know what, you can go, once you get the feel for it and you get the look you want, you can go pretty quick. You know, so other times I like to do more of a dry brush effect, really light, and that gives a whole different effect. You can see that effect on our Machine Works kit online, where that's how I painted more dry brushing. This is dabbing more. I've even done it different kits where we start painting individual bricks with different colors, sometimes black, sometimes rusts, and that has also a unique look. That's more time consuming, of course, but the results speak for themselves when you see buildings like that. We have a few that we've done that way. You know, I don't have no frills. This isn't a special brush. You know, I don't worry about that, even though when all I was doing was modeling, I liked buying tools, buying special brushes, and in fact I still have some of those and I've stayed with them because I learned techniques with them. But other than that, I'm just going around making sure I get coverage I want. I can look back at it, you know, you guys can see it a little closer. Some of these areas might look too dark. Always just dab a little bit more on top. Blends it. When we do the mortar lines, oh man, that's going to really make everything pop. But there is a step that I really don't tell people about, only because unless they see me or see me do it here, it's going to seem daunting to somebody. They may not want to do it. They just read it in the manual. And what I do is before I add my mortar lines, and I do a very unique thing with that as well. Before I add my mortar lines, I hit all the painted areas with a certain type of hairspray. And I was doing that mainly in the beginning because I didn't want any paint pigments, or because I use weathering powder, brick colored weathering powder sometimes. I didn't want that to mix with my mortar wash and ultimately, just turn all pink. So I sprayed with the hairspray to seal it. I don't need dull coat or something like that to seal it. Dull coat tends to react with any alcohol, so if you're putting an alcohol wash like I'm going to be doing over it, dull coat tends to want to do weird things, change different colors or turn white or not. So now I'm going to switch over to the yellows. With doing this, when I'm painting, these extra colors on top of the main base, I'm not, I'm not using a ton of paint. I don't care if there's some mixture of the colors on top of that. What I do suggest is on the main first base color, while I'm getting this ready, is paint it. This paint here that we were using, it's very thick. So I put it on my glass, and then I take some water in my brush, and I start making myself a less thick, but still full coverage paint. So some of the yellows here, you'd think yellow. Why yellow? Yellow isn't there. It's not there with bricks and so forth. But it does. It is there. If you ever seen any of Carl Ozelinski's modeling, and he's shared with me his techniques, and some of this is his technique mixed with mine. He does yellows, even maybe some touches of blues, very lights, and then again our washes take care of the rest. But I want to go very light with this because it can be a bright color, and I'm just going to, when I need it, go back, get a little more. All these in between lines here, those are going to be where the poured concrete is going. So it's going to cover all that up. I'll show you sort of what that'll look like as a little preview. Although the kit will probably be out on the market in time. If you have indoor doors, get inside some of these here. And as I'm dabbing, we're getting some yellow effect. Don't have enough on my brush. And you can see it's just a little bit. Again, my orange spill here, I'm not going to be too worried about that at all. And neither should you when it comes to this stuff. Jason Jensen does a lot of this type of stuff too, different color dabbing. The man's amazing with what he does with his painting and his new kits that he's putting out. They're great. Jason lives up in Greeley, Colorado, which is a couple hours north of me here in the Springs. I want to take this brighter red, it's red ochre, and I want to put a little bit of it into all these areas where it's newer brick. It still may be 30 years old, but the other stuff's probably 100 years old, right? So we want it to be able to see that difference. Put a little paint down here. And I don't want to do a ton of it. I don't want it to stand out too much. Anything that is too bright, it stands out too much, that's going to draw the attention, in my mind, to someone looking at your model as a whole. They're drawn to one or two particular aspects of the model, which then it takes away from them seeing the full scene. So you want things to be muted. You want things to be... I don't know how I want to put this on. I'm just going to start semi-brushing, semi-dabbing, because I really want it to reflect. And again, I don't have to worry about the tops and the bottoms here because that's going to be covered. And so as I do some of this little bit of dry brushing on over the top, you can now really see a big difference from that to that. And once we get the, again, I keep saying the mortar lines, but it's true. Once we get the mortar lines on there, you won't believe how that changes everything. It's one of my favorite parts, so I'm just going to dry brush quickly. And I got the red still on my brush, but I'm actually going to dump into my rust color here real quick, mix it a bit with that new red. And now I'm going to do a little bit of dabbing just to try to get another little bit of color variation, as bricks have. You can see that, sorry. But we're going to leave this here for right now. We'll come up and bring it up closer to you so you can see. We've got new brick. We've got old looking brick. Again, these areas are where it's going to be covered. and you've got multiple colors through there, so it looks really good. But it's still bright. It's too bright. I wouldn't put this out on the layout yet, because we want to tone all these brighter and darker areas to be muted to more as one. But as you can see, here is one of the overlays that has the poured concrete engraved into it, and we're gonna stain that as well, so it has a nice look. This is raw off the laser, but you'll see that this gets glued down right there, and it covers all those spots. Goes around the side. It covers all the joints of gluing the two top and lower half together. And we're going to have fire escapes and security bars and iron wall anchors. So look for that. We'll get back to the next is going to be the doing the hairspray, and then we'll do the mortar next. So really appreciate it.